You can download episodes of Stacy on the Right from the podcast page on AFR.net or UrbanFamilyTalk.com. Now, back to the show on American Family Radio and Urban Family Talk.
I don't take anything off the table. I don't like to take things off the table. It's that alternative. It's national emergency. It's other things. And, you know, there have been plenty national emergencies called. And this really is an invasion of our country by human traffickers. These are people that are horrible people, bringing in women mostly, but bringing in women and children into our country, human trafficking. And we're going to have a strong border. And the only way you have a strong border is you need a physical barrier, you need a wall. And anybody that says you don't, they're just playing games.
Welcome back to the program. Stacy on the Right here with you today, and I'm so excited about our next guest. He's someone that I've gotten to meet in person, and we are both huge fans of the press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who happens to be his daughter. So I'm so pleased to have Mike Huckabee. He's the former governor of Arkansas, also Fox News Channel host, and then he now has a program on TBN. You can find out more about the Huckabee program, which airs on Saturdays at 8 p.m., 7 Central, exclusively at TBN by going to tbn.org/Huckabee. Governor Huckabee, thank you for coming on today.
Stacy, it's such a pleasure to be with you. And, boy, you're right about my affection for the White House press secretary. I will tell you that now I'm no longer introduced with all this biographical information. You were gracious in mentioning some of it. Usually I just get up to give a speech and they say, ladies and gentlemen, Sarah's dad, and that's it. So that's it's fine with me.
You know, that's not a bad one. I'll give it to you. If parenting gets to go in the direction that yours has, people are doing well. I'll say that.
That's true.
So let's talk about, I want to get into two things with you today. And so I'll save the fun for last, which is the State of the Union, which I've been rooting for the past couple of weeks. I'm so excited that it's scheduled for tomorrow. But first, I want to tackle a tougher subject, which is what's going on at the southern border. And I really feel like it's not a left-right issue anymore because of the nature of the there's danger there. There's actual human trafficking, drug smuggling, and a multi-billion-dollar cartel, operation going on. So what do you see happening next with the Democrats kind of standing firm on no money for the border?
I find it hard for them to justify that. I mean, I get it that they don't like the president. I understand they don't necessarily agree with his vision or his version of how things ought to go down. But that's what governing is all about. You sit in the room and you hash out the differences, but you come to some conclusion. I would like to think that the Democrats genuinely believe that human trafficking is evil and that exploiting particularly young underage girls in prostitution is a hideous practice that we should do everything possible to stop, and that the spread of opioid drugs and fentanyl is so dangerous and deadly. We already know that it's killing more people than the entire Iraqi and Afghanistan war. It's destroying families. You would think that they would say, we don't care for President Trump. We don't agree with all of his policies, plans, or prescriptions to fix it, but let's join together. Let's stop these two things, both of which have connections to an unregulated border. But they don't seem to care. They honestly seem more interested in defeating Donald Trump politically than they do in defeating these evil, hideous practices that are killing so many Americans.
Yeah, the latest toll is 70,000 for the last reportable year. 70,000 Americans who are no longer with us due to opioid overdoses, which that's a southern border problem. 90% of that is coming in through the southern border. I saw a little bit of audio on Fox News. It's a video of Andy Biggs. He's a Republican. He's on the House Judiciary Committee, and he lives in Arizona. And he was talking about, his idea or his feeling on this is that Congress will not come to a deal on border security by the 15th of February. And he thinks the Democrats are kind of locked into, it's almost like a temper tantrum with a toddler. They're just locked in and they can't get out of it. But he did mention that 10 U.S.C. Section 284 allows the Secretary of Defense, upon request from federal and state law enforcement, to deal with drug trafficking and use federal dollars, and they don't need congressional approval to do so. And this would avoid the president having to declare a national emergency. Which do you think would be the better solution, and do you think the president is leaning towards one or the other?
Well, the better solution would be if Congress would join with him in recognizing this is not a political issue. It's an American issue. It's a safety issue. But if they don't, then the president has an obligation as commander-in-chief of the armed forces and as the chief security official for the United States to do what's necessary to protect America and American lives. I think that the prospect of doing it outside of a national emergency will probably be less controversial, though quite frankly, whatever he does, the Democrats will resist. They will accuse him of a power play. He will likely be sued. And it may be, frankly, a real test of executive authority that will go all the way to the Supreme Court. But the sad part is that he even has to employ those mechanisms. The thing that a lot of people don't understand, there are dozens of national emergencies declared all the time. It's not like that this is some rare and almost unthinkable thing. But you would think so if you only listen to the fake news of CNN and MSNBC, because they make it appear that if the president were to invoke a national emergency, he's done something that is just beyond the norm. It simply isn't. But we're not dealing with people who care about facts and reality, and that's what I find so frustrating. But here's the other side. The president has to come through, fulfill his promise to secure the border, some of which is physical barriers. Call it a wall, call it a fence, doesn't matter what you call it. It's the centerpiece of his campaign. It's the centerpiece of his promise to America. It's perhaps the single most important reason that he's sitting in the White House right now, is because he made it such a critical part of his of what he was going to do as president. And I feel that if in any way he does not do it, it will just be devastating to his future.
You know, I think it's a morale issue for Americans who really see this, as you described it so correctly, Governor. This idea that we have children, and I don't care what the children's nationality is, the idea of children being sold into sexual slavery and trafficked into our country, and the fact that somehow we're culpable for it, I think that's something that's being missed in the discussion. A lot of people are not talking about how when it's our country, and as long as the border is allowed to be open, we are all partially responsible for what's happening down there, and we have to resolve it. I think a lot of people see this as a moral imperative that we have to take care of it. And I totally agree with you about the president. The impetus here is he can't fail here. So turning to the State of the Union, this is completely connected. How do you see him addressing the border and the other issues we're facing right now? He's going to give the State of the Union. Everyone's waiting. I'm like so totally excited about it. I'm going to be with friends. You know, I won't be drinking wine, but I will be tweeting like nobody's business. What do you think he's going to say tomorrow?
I think he's going to be typical Trump. I think he's going to be bold. He's not going to mince words. I think the fact that Nancy Pelosi will be sitting right behind him will be what will be more fun to watch than anything else, is to see her body language and to see if she puts her tongue up in her teeth, as she typically does when she is listening to him speak. I think it's going to be classic Trump, and I fully expect that he will openly challenge the Democrats. He will bring to their memory how many times they have voted for far more money for a physical wall than he's even asking for, and he will call them out. I would be shocked if he does anything less, because that's his style. I mean, we remember during the presidential debates when he looked directly at Hillary and he challenged her on the idea of full-term abortion, last trimester, what we now see being passed in New York and proposed in Virginia. And he told Hillary to her face that that was just morally repugnant and wrong. And I remember how I sat up in my chair and I thought, never has a person in a presidential debate facing the opposition party in the finals of the campaign ever been so bold with a pro-life statement as he was. And he's fearless when it comes to such things, and I expect him to be the State of the Union.
I loved that moment. I think it was one of the best political moments for our country ever. Just the brazen boldness, which is why, honestly, Governor Huckabee, I can't understand why anyone would be unclear as to why he's there. I know a lot of people have criticisms of him. I have been I criticize him and I also praise him. I feel I have to have both sides. That's a good relationship. So I'm very honest about when I'd like something and I don't like something. But as far as him actually being the president, especially on the heels of President Obama, it's kind of, to me, it's a no-brainer. Who would you need? You need a wrecking ball like President Trump to come in and systematically take things apart and do it with the mouth of the common man, as opposed to someone who maybe is wearing a sweater vest and is very critical but wouldn't get anything done, like our new senator from Utah, Mitt Romney.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Well, I think, Stacey, you pointed it out beautifully, and that is that there are things that the president maybe says or the manner in which he says them, I'm thinking, well, I wouldn't have said it that way. Mm-hmm. But then he got elected and I didn't. So I try to remind people when they tell me, well, I don't appreciate how blunt or sometimes crude and even vulgar he can be. And I can say, I don't have to agree with it. But I ask myself, is he getting done what we sent him there to do? And the answer is yes. Is he doing it, with clear surgical cuts? Sometimes it's pretty ragged. But the point is, as a person of faith, he has taken on issues that are deeply important to me. And even some of the never-Trumpers, the people who just don't like his personality, don't like his style, I don't know how they miss that their lives and their values are better off because whether he lives them, he respects those of us who do live them. And that's something we did not have under the last 8 years. And I'll guarantee you, because I know Hillary Clinton better than most people, we would not have been having those kind of experiences had she been elected.
So well put. So last question, and it's just a fun one. Are you enjoying watching these? Every week we get a couple new Democratic candidates for the presidency. Are you enjoying watching them implode one by one and the crazy comments they've been making? Well,
frankly, they're doing more to ensure the reelection of President Trump because the further left they go, the more out of touch they are, even with the mainstream of Democrat voters. I mean, there are some really far left people in America. I get that. Many of them have been elected to Congress as Democrats or to the Senate. Many of them are running as president. But there's still, across this country, people in the Democratic Party who typically will call themselves Democrat, and they're not crazy. They really aren't. They understand there's a difference between a boy and a girl, and that you don't let a kid grow up wondering which one he is until he's 14, and then he gets to make his choice. They know better than that. They know better than that you can tax people 90% and that anybody would ever get out of bed and go to work, because why would you? Just let the government take care of me. Why would I work so hard to keep nothing? There's just a growing sense of which the further left these people go, I think the more devoid they are of being able to capture some of their former constituents. And these people may not ever want to consider themselves Republican, but I think they will quietly go into the voting booth and say, I just can't vote for these people. They're on the fringe.
Well, you know what, Governor? If that's what it takes, by hook or by crook, obviously in the most biblical fashion, Stacey on the Right on Christian Radio, I'm looking at Trump 2020, and my prayers are for the president and also my hopes and everything I feel is really riding on him having a second term so that he can finish the work that he's begun so well. So I want to give everybody the tbn.org/Huckabee. Who's on the show this weekend? Do you already know who's coming on?
Well, we're going to have quite the show. Let me just mention this past week. This is typical of what we had. We had the former cast of He on. We had Stephen Baldwin in his brand new movie that I hope people will go see, which is about the missionary Graham Staines. We had Congressman Doug Collins. We're working on the show this week, so we have a lot of things in the hopper for it. We'll be announcing it probably Thursday of this week. We'll have our final rundown. But every weekend, on TBN. It's on Saturday, Sunday, 8 and 11 Eastern, 7 and 10 Central. So you got 4 shots at watching. And you can watch it on demand at Huckabee.tv. Find out where it can be seen on your television. You know, Stacey, I have people that say, well, I don't get TBN. I say, oh, yes, you do. If you have satellite, if you have cable, or if you have Internet, you can get TBN. So I hope people will watch. I think they'll love the show.
Lots of fantastic programming. I love watching the program. And I want to point people to your Instagram account, Huckabee on TBN. I follow there. And he has great images, and you can see how much fun you guys have on the program. You often play your instrument, the guitar, and join the performers there. I recommend it highly to anybody who's looking for great entertainment. Really a fun variety show, not just politics. It touches on almost every subject. Governor, thank you for your time today. I know you're busy, and really appreciate you coming on today.
Stacey, it's always a pleasure. Great to talk to you again, and hope to have you back on the show soon.
Hey, you let me know when. Until then, I will be watching, and I will definitely hook up on social media and, give you some likes on there because the content's really fantastic.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless. Talk to you soon. We'll be right back with more on Stacey on the Right.